Good afternoon, Narendra. Yes. Actually, there are good afternoon and good evening, one and all. Today, now we are going to have HANUMANTHA 8th endowment lecture towards a water smart green revolution. Vikshit Rishi for Vikshit Bharat. There are actually two events in this Sunday. One is even garlanding, paying homage to HANUMANTHA Garu, and second is the actual conveying of the keynote address to the entire audience. So, whoever present here will try to garland. So, I invite the chair, Dr. I.S.N. Raju Garu. We also have Nagbhushan Rao Garu, Vice President of IEI and also past chairman. We also have the family here. Ramanujul Garu and Shashi Goda Garu. Excellent madam, that make the grand event. And we also have Professor Dr. Ramana Naik Garu. Then our council member Shambhav Garu, Super Garu, Duram Krishna Garu, Ishwaraya Garu, and Putar Garu. Then we also have one of the students, Hussain Garu is here. And also one of the students who is one of the who is actually to be honored today as a topper of the also is also here. So I request please writing a plan. I request a family member, the chairman, student past chairman, and council member, and Nagbhushan Rao Garu for lighting up the lamp and also garlanding. The Rococo flower looks.
Randy, no, you department, sir. Sir, you department too.
Thank you, sir.
I go back.
I'm going to name the 80s will have been
During the
Randy, please come.
let's see.
Randy, flowers paper. Flowers. Everybody can have. We both work under new evaluation. Both of us and director ministry, yes, sir. Department.
You sir, 2001, sir. 2001. Can see her. Here. Laptop covered.
Madam toti certificate kuda mandi physical ga abbaiki
Chinna.
Sir, before we get into the actual
Program.
The formality of getting the keynote address, I request the family members, chairman, Nagbhushan Rao Garu, immediate past chairman, council member, along with to honor one of the students. Actually, today we have four medals to be given for 4 different universities, sir. One is SV University, the other is NIT Warangal, third is JNTU Kakinada, and fourth is IT Hyderabad. We have received only from 3. Yes, 3. And we haven't actually got from the other. Generally, all these 3 students, generally, either they are moved out of Hyderabad for higher education to foreign countries, or they are different places working. So only one person has come today. Let us, it's an honor for you to use that medal to read out his citation. Basically, his name is V. Shivkumar Babu. Appreciation of his outstanding academic performance in securing the highest percentage of marks in BTech Civil during 2021-24 from University of College of Engineering, SV University, Tirupati. This medal given by the Telangana State Center of PA, Hyderabad on the occasion of Engineering Day and the family. Sorry, please, it students. Sorry, students. And then sir, please, please. Sir, please. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Muslim continue. Chalo, let's start.
Okay, thank you, sir.
నారాయణ గారు మీరు రాలేదు
వచ్చాను
మీరు యోగాడికి రాలేదు గ్రేట్ డిసప్పాయింట్ ఐ రిక్వెస్ట్ టు కమ్ మీరు రాలేదు
మీరు ఇప్పుడు సెంటర్లో లేరా ఎక్కడున్నారా ఇంటి దగ్గర ఉన్నారా
సార్ ఐఎమ్ ఆడిబుల్ హలో
ఆడిబుల్ సార్ ఆడిబుల్
మరి సార్
ఫైన్ గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్
And some boys of 12 to 14, they were playing cricket. Of the 7, I asked, what do you want to become? To my surprise, 2 guys said, we want to become civil engineer.
In this digital age.
First time I heard, first time. And third guy said, I want to become mechanical engineer. Nobody has opted for IT. I felt very happy.
Now, co-engineering importance is coming back again.
Sir, today in JNT also tremendous change.
Sir, sir and madam, all good evening. Just now we have honored our
హలో అందరు
నమస్తే
హై హౌ ఆర్ యు సార్
ఫైన్
Okay. Okay.
Member and council member, chapter and past chairman and committee member, Ramana, and family members of HANUMANTHA, Madam Shashikula and Ramanathan Garu, Dr. Hussain Garu, and other colleagues and very eminent people here. And also today's the presence S.M. RAO Garu is the vice president and former chairman of just now we have concluded the government of the president of today in honor to present our the title of the company towards the water, farm, trees, Sushi for Viksit Bharat. We all treat P.M. Garu as a guru, as Doyan.
నారాయణ గారు స్టార్ట్ అవుతుందా?
నమస్తే
నమస్తే నమస్తే నారాయణ గారు
సార్ నమస్తే.
నమస్తే నమస్తే ఏంటి స్టార్ట్ అవుతుందా?
ఇంకా అవట్లేదండి.
అని దింపేసి మేము అడుగుదాం
Also, University College of National Institute of Technology, Varangal, and Indian Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. Honored memory of the engineer P. HANUMANTHA. So, on this occasion, we are very happy that today the award was given with the noble hands of the family members of the HANUMANTHA and thank them for taking it. So actually the award is for this year actually they pursued engineering and taken degree in 2025, that is 21-25 batch. And Mr. Ashwin Kumar is selected for IIT Hyderabad. Mrs. Ankam Bhavya and Bosam Sivasankar Babu, actually University of Engineering College of West University in Tirupati. Actually, both names are given because of the difference of that performance is very marginal difference is there. But the awardee and will present to him. I am glad to inform that the Telangana State Center of the Institute of Engineers has been regularly organizing 21 endowment lectures every year on the birthdays of very eminent people, and one such eminent people is T. Hanumantha Garu. So it starts from V. Subbarao Garu endowment lecture, M. Tirupati Reddy Garu, Professor K. Gopichand, Dr. J. Purushottam, Engineer Prabhakar, Poka Krishna Mohan Rao Garu, S. Balakrishna Reddy Garu, G. V. Subbarao Garu, T. Hanumantha Rao Garu, A.P. Ranganatha Swami Garu, Dr. S. Raghavachari Garu. I think their memory were all conducting this one, and one of the two, the endowment lectures are actually recognizing their eminence and their service to their family members have proposed it. Maturi Gopal Rao Garu, another important man, and Narla Tata Rao Garu. They are all doyens, experts in their own field, and some of these eminent people have also served the Institute of Engineers also. S. Raghavachari Garu, Gurram Kotireddy Garu, Atluri Venkateswara Garu, R.L. Raju Garu, John A. Murray Garu, N.V.R.L.N. Rao Garu. Actually, he is the father of N.V. Ramana. Earlier, he was the director at NIT, now he is in Raipur. L. Venkakrishna Iyer, K.V. Srinivasan, and M.L. Swami Garu. A. Ramakrishna endowment lecture and I. Basaraju Garu endowment lecture. These are all very, very eminent people. Actually, they inspire all the present generation. So, with their dedicated service and selfless service to the society, not only engineering community, but the state and the country also. The endowment lectures are being delivered by people of high eminence with considerable professional experience throw light on important emerging topics. So I take this opportunity to say a few words about the veteran T. Hanumantha Garu. T. Hanumantha Garu was born in the year 1930. He was a most honest irrigation engineer and of far excellence, and his efficiency at highest degree of unconscious competence levels till his last breath at the age of 86. He was an able administrator and headed very prestigious institution like Valamtari in the cadre of engineer in chief, that is General Valamtari. Actually, yes, that institute is very, very important for training the budding engineers, and he was responsible for the present generation of engineers for achieving their contributions and achievements in the department. Actually, he made the foundation for all the present generation of engineers and made previous generation of engineers also. They also got benefited. Actually, when we worked, we were at the lower position of assistant engineer and deputy engineer. At that time, we were the chief engineer and engineer in chief. And so he was also chief engineer Kanga project, and he was the commissioner of tenders, government of Andhra Pradesh. And most importantly, so Sir is the first chairman of IEA AP Telangana State Center Command State of 1988 and 1990. And he was also former chairman of the Technical Committee, Water Conservation Mission, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Just now, our SN Rao Garu told that even Neeru Chettu also, the services of Hanumantha Garu was requested to evaluate the works that has happened. So under the aegis of Engineering Staff College of India. And very rarely irrigation engineers contribute to technical papers and seminars, but is an exception. He has published over 92 technical papers in Indian international journals, and he also published a very, very important technical volumes that are still people are referring even today also about his publication. One is type designs of lift irrigation schemes in India, type designs and ready reckoner tables for earthen dams, and manual on designs for mine irrigation projects. That is very, very popular. Actually, any budding engineer who joins in the department as assistant engineer, if he wants to prepare a project report, actually it is a Bible. That is a project preparation. How you have to do that mine irrigation project. That is very important. And also, he has published innovative participatory technology for watersheds low-cost structures on 4 water concepts. That is that is a last publication. Actually, even today in Rajasthan, they are practicing this 4 water concept and they're achieving a lot of results, and he has become a very national famous. In the words of N.T. Ramarao, actually, he was so impressed and he has appreciated his services for his contributions to the IN Irrigation Department, with specific mention for his publication on guidelines for man irrigation projects. So that publication also actually it was taken note by him. T. Hanumanthha Garu, Chief Engineer Man Irrigation, has done innovative work in standardization of designs, preparation of ready reckoner tables, and issuing guidelines in the shape of a manual for preparation of detailed project reports for mine irrigation. I appreciate this is actually the words of M.T. Ramarao Garu about T. Hanumanthha Garu. Very rarely such things will happen. A politician will prize an engineer like this. So that is only deserving, that deserves only that T. Hanumanthha Garu. And Ramarao Garu said that I appreciate this pioneering activity in the sphere of mine irrigation. After superannuation from the state government services, he worked over 2 decades as technical team leader consultant for about 9 international organizations that serving in 22 countries. During visits abroad, he solved several varied problems related to water resource engineering and civil engineering for ongoing projects in the countries, in those countries of 22 countries, that is externally aided organizations are World Bank, United Nations, that is Operation Project Services, IFAD, that is International Fund for Agriculture Development, that based at Rome, partly that is UN funded project, funded thing, and other important thing, Center for Integrated Rural Development for 15 Asian and Pacific countries. WAPCOS, the international assignments, that WAPCOS belongs to Government of India Water Resource Department. They got assignments in abroad for which they hired the services of T. Hanumanthha Garu. German Agro Action, Germany. DFID, that is Department for International Development, that is UK government, sponsored by UK government. Swedish Project Development, the Kingdom of Netherlands Department. He was awarded Best All-Rounder Cup during his studies itself in the college of Kaikanad Engineering College. Apart from excellence in academic, also he is a good sportsman. So he was awarded Best All-Rounder Cup for proficiency both in sports and studies during his graduation in Kaikanad Engineering College. He was recipient of Central Board of Irrigation and Power, Government of India Award in 1989 for outstanding work in Water Source Department. And he was recipient of Visishta Seva Patram from the highest honor of the Andhra Pradesh state government in the year 1986 for outstanding work in the government service. And also our Institute of Engineers, that is 100 years old institute, also conferred him Bharat Ratna Sir Moksharam Visvesvaraya Award in the year 1987 for outstanding contributions to the field of engineering, that is jointly by Institute of Engineers and Government of Andhra Pradesh. Today, the Telangana State Center has organized Engineer T. Hanumanthha Rao 8th Endowment Lecture on towards a water smart green revolution, Vikasit Krishi for Vikashit Bharat, none other than an eminent professor, Dr. Vinay Nangia, research team leader, soils, water, and agronomy at ICA RDA. With these few words, we invite and extend a warm welcome to the keynote speaker, Dr. Vinay Nangia, research team leader, soils, water, and agronomy at ICRISAT, on behalf of the IA Telangana State Center. Before the chief guest present is this one, I request the convener of this event, Engineer Mari Ramesh Garu, to present the biodata of Professor Dr. Vinay Nangia. Now mic is over to Mari Ramesh. Is available? Mari Ramesh Garu.
అన్మ్యూట్ కండి రమేష్ గారు, అన్మ్యూట్ కండి, అన్మ్యూట్ కండి రమేష్ గారు, అన్మ్యూట్ కాలే మీరు.
మీరు మ్యూట్ లో ఉన్నారు రమేష్. ఓకే, మళ్ళీ అగైన్ యు గాట్ మ్యూటెడ్.
సీను లేదు, ప్రింట్ అవుట్ పట్టరా
ఇక్కడ ఉంది,
ఇటువంటి
మళ్ళీ
రమేష్ గారు అన్మ్యూట్ కండి.
గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ సార్.
మరి రమేష్ గారు,
Done, sir. Done, sir.
come onto the line and unmute yourself.
Done, sir. Done.
Yeah, now
Done.
we can start.
Done, sir. Done. Done.
Okay, please. Please present
Oh.
the biodata of the speaker.
At the outset, I extend my sincere thanks to the chairman, ISN Raju garu, for giving me this opportunity to introduce today's keynote speaker. And all the dignitaries there are Venkat Subbaya garu, President, Dr. Sitaram Babu, Honorary Secretary, and Council Member, Engineer Mereddy Sham Prasad Reddy garu, Dr. S.N. Rao garu, past Chairman, Professor Dr. Ramna Nayak Banod garu, and Honorary Joint Secretary, my sister, Srimati M. Aruna garu, and respected esteemed corporate members, Adinarana garu, and family members of our P. Hanumantha garu. So, I take this opportunity to introduce today's keynote speaker, Dr. Vinay Nangia. Dr. Vinay Nangia is a principal scientist and research team leader, soil, water, and agronomy at the International Center for Agricultural Research in the Dry Areas, ICRDA, a CGR Center, a professor at Tottori University in Japan, and an adjunct faculty at Texas A&M University, United States of America. Dr. Nangia has a PhD degree in water resources management and 2 master's degrees, first in biosystems and agricultural engineering, and the second is geographic information science, all from the University of Minnesota, United States of America. His leadership and team building skills have helped solve complex challenges to water resource management posed by climate change. His work has been supported by 35 million US dollars of grant support from various donors such as the AFESD, CFC, FAO, ZIZ, IFAD, OFID, USAID, World Bank, and bilateral funding from government of China, Egypt, GCC countries, Iran, India, and Morocco. Dr. Nangia has published over 300 publications, including over 120 peer-reviewed scientific articles in high-impact journals and 40 book, chapter, and conference proceedings. Over the years, he has trained more than 50 graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, and visiting scientists from all over the world. He is recipient of several scientific awards and honors. He serves on FAO, WASAG, UNCCD, IWG, on DRAT, UNFCCC, focal point for ICARDA, and other high-level expert bodies. Dr. Nangia is an advisory board member to ZIWEH, which is a Geneva-based water think tank. Thank you, sir. Thank you, the chairman, for giving me this opportunity to introduce today's keynote speaker, Dr. Vinay Nangia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari Ramesh garu. Now I request Vinay Nangia garu, please you can make your presentation. Nangia sir.
Thank you
Please
so
unmute.
much.
Okay.
Can somebody
Right.
confirm you can hear me loud and clear?
Yeah, we can, sir. We are hearing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Let me share my screen and get started. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to address this August gathering on the memorable occasion of 8th endowment lecture in the memory of engineer T. Hanumantha Rao Garu sir. I have read a lot about his legacy and the wonderful work he has done, especially the concept of the 4 water concept that he introduced, which was quite revolutionary in that time and gave a new meaning and a new way of looking at water resources. Instead of looking at bits and pieces, it was taking a holistic view. And I really enjoyed reading his thinking and the impact he made during his illustrious career being an irrigation engineer. So I'm proud to be present here amongst you all and joining you virtually. And I'm talking more in general sense and not keeping it too engineering focused and trying to connect with the bigger picture. What are the burning issues? Where is the world heading? Where are the challenges and opportunities? And how India, which is aspiring to become a developed nation by 2047, how can agriculture and the farming community and the rural community also join this mission? And how can we repurpose our agriculture to serve the nation as well as serve the community? So in that sense, I'll be positioning this lecture, trying to connect the dots, looking at where the world has been heading, where are we presently, and where are we going, and then end my lecture with some key take-home messages. I'm hoping to spend about 1 hour or slightly less than that, and I hope that will be enough time, and I won't have to rush my lecture. Um, so India was recently celebrating 75 years of independence, the Amrit Kal that was being called. Somehow my slides are stuck. 1 second. Okay. So if we go back in time, like it's been over 75 years since India got its independence. In these 75 years, the world has also changed a lot, because of the end of the Second World War and the world having been quite peaceful. The world population has almost doubled in these 75 years. And the world economy has grown by as much as 7 times. So people have a lot more money in their pocket today and a lot more of income to spend on exotic foods, on travels, on things that require a lot of money, at the same time are very demanding on nature. So what has happened is that although the world population has doubled, the grain demand globally has tripled in this 75 years of time, because we are no longer just consuming grains, but we are also feeding these grains to the animals, and increasingly the diets are changing from vegetarian grain-based diets to more meat-based, dairy-based kind of diet. And that's why we even see that the calorie intake per capita has been improving in this 75 years of time. But what it has done is that it has put an enormous pressure on the natural resource base. Earth has its own regeneration capacity. So each time you cut a forest, it takes a while for that forest to regrow. Each time you degrade the topsoil because of erosion, it takes a while for that soil to rebuild itself and bring back the fertility and things of those kinds. Same with the fisheries, same with the groundwater recharge. Nature has a certain rate at which it can regenerate its capacity to its original state. And human activities have already surpassed the Earth's regeneration capacity. So around 1980, we started surpassing, and by 1999, we were surpassing it by 20%. And the way things are at present, if we look at business as usual, the humanity needs about 2 Earths to 2.6 Earths going forward, unless we change the way we do things. So this is simply not sustainable. We are putting a lot of pressure on nature and not leaving too much for our next generation to feed on. Also, in the past 75 years, because of the invention of the fossil fuels and a lot of pumping of the fossil fuels and people buying cars and buying big farm machinery, etc., the fossil fuel consumption has increased by almost 4 times. And the carbon dioxides have also been increasing, causing global warming. So around 75 years back, 1947 or so, when India got its independence, nobody was talking about carbon dioxide or global warming or climate change. So what it has done, it has put a lot of pressure on the farmer and the food production. We have eroding soils, we have collapsing fisheries, we have falling groundwater tables and rising temperatures. These are new emerging challenges that the farmer was not facing in 45 years of time. Also, if you look at the newspapers today, if you look at Wall Street Journal, if you look at Times of India, if you look at even Nature or other scientific publications, every day you hear that records are being broken. Highest ever temperature, highest ever floods, untimely rains, glaciers melting, sea level rising, and these things are happening at a much faster pace. All the newspapers, all the TV channels, everything that you see around you, every day there is something that is beating the record, and it's saying that it has never been seen before. In fact, what we were expecting to be seen in 2050, 2070, we are starting to see at present. The levels of heat stress, the kinds of heat waves, the floods. Sometimes you have the floods and droughts happening at the same time in the same country in different parts. So climate change is happening at a faster pace. It's very widespread and it's very intensifying in nature. And all the models that we have been using to predict the climate change and the impact of climate change each day are proving to be wrong. So what we were expecting to be in a distant future, we are facing at present. We are running out of time to develop technologies, develop solutions to combat climate change. So it's an emerging challenge that the farmer and the countries are facing. How can you make yourself climate smart? When you see around the world, areas that were not considered to be dry are starting to face the traits that you typically find in the dry areas. So the dry lands are on the expansion, the water scarcity is on the rise, climate change is on the rise, and the intensity is on the rise. So farmers today are facing two new challenges: rising temperatures and falling water tables. And they have to deal with these, which their forefathers were not struggling with. My slides are moving a little slow. Give me a minute. Okay. So I'm talking a lot about water. It takes about 1 liter of water to produce 1 calorie of food. And according to World Health Organization standards, each human being for a healthy lifestyle needs about 2,500 calories
Sir.
of, yes.
Please go. Boss, join. Sorry. Yeah, you can join.
Please.
Please go. Like committee extra ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು
Please mute yourself. Okay. So it takes about 1 liter of water to produce 1 calorie of food, and a human being for a healthy lifestyle needs about 2,500 calories a day. So imagine 2,500 calories per human being per day times the population of human beings and the population of animals. If you combine it, that's the kind of water is needed on a daily basis. Can you please mute yourself? Okay. And here I'm just displaying for you typically how much water is needed to produce 1 kilogram of typical commodities that we consume each day in our diets. Southern India is very rice-based diets, and it takes about 3,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of rice. Northern India is more wheat-based diets, and it takes about 1,350 liters of water to produce a kilogram of wheat. Even the milk that we consume, the fodder that we have to give to the animal, and the milk that we get from the cows, it takes almost 1,000 liters of water to produce 1 liter of food, of 1 liter of milk. Even a simple cup of coffee, the coffee beans and the milk and the sugar that goes into a cup of coffee, it takes about 140 liters to produce 1 cup of coffee. So you can go to a website called Water Footprint to find out what's the water footprint of use. Any shirt that you're wearing, belt you're wearing, shoes you're wearing, everything has water embedded in it. And each one of us has a daily water footprint. And we can find out if we have a high water footprint or a low water footprint. Also, increasingly, food security is becoming a national security issue. More and more countries are trying to become food secure, food sovereign, and they want to produce food within their national boundaries. Yet there are more than 100 countries that import wheat that they consume, and there are some 40 countries worldwide that import the rice they consume. So they're exposed to the international pressures. Each time the prices fluctuate, they have to come up with more amounts of money to buy this food to feed their people, and it feeds into inflationary pressures. It feeds into the foreign exchange that they have to spend, etc. Countries like Iran, countries like Egypt with huge populations have almost 40 to 50% exposure to the grain supply, and they have to keep buying in the international market. Smaller countries, more drier countries such as Israel, Yemen, etc., are importing as much as 90% of the food that they need for their populations. On the flip side of things, you have countries such as United States, Canada, France, Australia, etc., that are having ample fertile lands, very good soils, very good water resources, and they are net exporters. These countries combined account for almost 90% of the grains that are exported worldwide. US alone controls about half of the grain exports happening globally, which gives it a lot of soft diplomatic power. If you can control the food supplies, you can arm twist other countries into striking favorable deals, tariffs, and those things. So that's why I'm saying food security is becoming increasingly a national security issue. If you're not self-sufficient, you're exposed to these stresses and external pressures. Each time you export or import a kilogram of a commodity, it's not just that food that moves, it's also the water that went into producing that food that moves. So if Telangana state produces a kilogram of rice and it exports it to Sri Lanka, it's not just exporting 1 kilogram of rice, it's also exporting the 3,000 liters of water from its country to the neighboring country. So this huge number that you see at the bottom of the screen is the virtual water that moves between national boundaries in form of agricultural commodities, which is called the virtual water trade. So you see 80% of this huge number is associated with agricultural products. It's the timber, it's the oil, it's the food, it's the everything that is produced using agricultural commodities. This is the kind of water that moves between the national boundaries on an annual basis. Now, each one of us gathered here is a specialist in a certain domain of water management. Some of us relate with irrigation water, maybe dam management, maybe groundwater use, maybe dryland agriculture, catchment management, land use, etc. But if you look at the bigger picture, we are all connected with each other. If a decision is made which is incorrect or something happening upstream, it very quickly starts translating and affecting people downstream. So if an irrigation engineer designs an irrigation scheme in a flawed manner, it affects everybody else because we are all connected with this water cycle. Upstream, downstream, the water that is surface water, rainwater, harvested water, everything is connected with each other, which was beautifully presented by late T. HANUMANTHA Garu sir in the form of the 4 water concept. So this picture is trying to depict that all the waters are connected with each other, all the disciplines are connected with each other, and we all have to join hands to be able to solve this problem. So what are the drivers of water scarcity agenda today? If you look at the PhD thesis, if you look at the universities, the professors, the proposals that are being written, they usually fall under these keywords. Impact of climate change on food security, impact of climate change on floods and droughts, the water scarcity on the rise, the declining groundwater table because of over abstraction, the river basins that are closing because there is no more water flowing out of these watersheds, these river basins into the ocean. We are not leaving any water for the nature. Also, the land use change. As the population is rising, we have limited land available for agricultural production. Also, because of the dietary changes, there is a lot of pressure on the land use. And lately, we have starting produces biofuels. So we are trying to replace the fossil fuels with biofuels, which is also putting pressure on our limited land and water resources. Do we use our land and water for producing food, or do we use them for producing biofuels? Now, if you superimpose a map of water scarcity with the map of where you find malnourishment, you see that there is a very strong correlationship. Wherever you see water scarcity, you also find malnourishment. And this is just a map showing you that Wherever you see that there is limited water, there is limited investment in water-related infrastructure. You find that you have malnourishment, you have urbanization, you have migration, you have civil unrest, you have inflationary pressure. People are trying to move to the cities and trying to find odd jobs because agriculture and rural way of living life is no longer sustainable. And that's what this map is trying to show here. Now, if we look at the bigger picture, the World Bank and Asian Development Bank and IMF, they have been giving a lot of money to South Asia. You see huge irrigation scheme like the Bhakra Nangal Dam, Indira Gandhi Canal projects, and similar projects happening in neighboring countries like China, in Pakistan, and elsewhere. So major investment in water have helped prevent famine and achieve record low food prices, which was the main achievement of the Green Revolution. So investment in irrigation, investment in fertilizer plants, high yielding varieties of cereals, and which brought in Green Revolution. And that brought the food production, which increased the food production. At the same time, it brought the food prices down. But now, what are the ill effects of Green Revolution? Because agriculture drives water scarcity, and water scarcity drives environmental degradation. And we are seeing that now the groundwater extraction is on the rise. You have contamination of groundwater with all kinds of pesticides. You have upstream versus downstream issues. You have water inequality issues, all kinds of things that have happened as an ill effect of the Green Revolution. But the problem is that poor people depend on agriculture. It's usually the farmer who's the poor person who's trying to earn a livelihood out of agriculture. And poor people need more water for food production and for earning livelihood. So the challenge becomes for politicians, for decision makers, for bureaucrats, where will this water come from and who gets this water? So what we are seeing increasingly is that there's a competition happening between the agriculture sector and the cities. My slides are again not moving. Give me a minute. It's frozen again. Okay. So if I'm talking a lot about water, but how much water are we talking about? If you look at all the water available on Earth, about 97.5% of all the water is in the form of salt water that you find in seas and oceans. It's only 2.5% of all the water that is in the freshwater resources form. Yet almost 70% of this fresh water is trapped as permanent glaciers and snow cover that you find on the North Pole, South Pole, Mount Everest, and other glaciers in the Himalayas and elsewhere. So almost 70% of this fresh water is not readily available for us to use. And the remaining 30%, which is in the form of groundwater, soil moisture, it's in the form of lakes and rivers, is all that is available for all our economic activities on Earth. And I just want to remind you that it takes almost 1 liter of water to produce a calorie of food, and 70% of all the fresh water that is available is presently already being used for food production. And that's why it becomes so important that such a small fraction of all the water that is available on Earth is in the freshwater form, and a very small fraction of that fresh water is available for ready use, and almost 70% of that water is already being used for food production. So there is no more room for finding additional land, additional water to expand agriculture, to produce more food going forward. We have to live within our means. Now, here is a map which shows water scarcity around the world. The area that you see in blue color has little or no water scarcity, which are usually the OECD developed countries such as North America, European countries, as well as Russia and others. And then I'm showing two kinds of water scarcity. You see in red, which is a physical water scarcity, and in this mustard, orangish, yellow color, which is the economic water scarcity. So when we talk about water scarcity, there are two ways of looking at water scarcity. What I mean by physical water scarcity is that the place is naturally not blessed with enough water resources, such as rivers or rainfall, etc. Whereas what is economic water scarcity is that there is no infrastructure to bridge the divide between water demand and water supply. It rains, but it's not captured. There is no dams, no canals, no rainwater harvesting. And this kind of water scarcity, the economic water scarcity, can be tackled, can be solved by investing in infrastructure. So that's why we call it economic water scarcity, because it can be overcome using economic uh, drivers. So you can invest in dams, you can invest in rainwater harvesting, you can do things to solve economic water scarcity. Whereas for physical water scarcity, you have to live within your means. You have to find ways of how to maximize the benefit you can derive from that limited water available to you, because there is no more hope. Hello? Can I continue? Now, another thing I want to talk about is how the trend has been around the world in terms of calorie intake. So if you look at this time from 1960 to say 2000, 2010, what we have seen is the 2500 is the acceptable level that a human being needs according to World Health Standards. And the developed countries have consistently for a very long time been consuming a lot more calories than they need. And you see health issues related with overconsumption of calories like diabetes, like obesity, and others, heart problems, etc., that are typically found in people who are consuming too many calories. Whereas if you look at the trend in Asia, trends in South Asia, they have been consistently been below 2500 levels, except when the economy started to open up, especially in China, when economic reforms happened, and later in South Asia and in India. And then you see that these countries started going above or reaching the 2500 levels because of the rise in the income levels. So world as a whole started exceeding the 2500 level around 1975, 1976. China started going above that, and Korea and Japan, etc., and Philippines and others around 1980s, 1990s. And then India and the rest of South Asia started approaching that levels of 2500 around year 2000. But the sad part of this map, this graph, is sub-Saharan Africa, which has been almost a flat line for a very long time. The economic benefits have not translated into more calories going into the stomachs of the poor people living in sub-Saharan Africa. The people are still lagging behind, significantly behind the rest of the world, and there has been very little attempt to address this problem. So one of the opportunities that the world says the opportunity lies is that if world is looking for additional land, additional water, fertile soils, looking for cheap labor, that's where the opportunity lies in sub-Saharan Africa to do contract farming, to invest in farm machinery, better seeds, etc., and irrigation systems in sub-Saharan Africa to feed the world. Here is a graph showing relationship between food production and rainfall pattern in a country, very poor country called Burkina Faso in Africa. What you see here is that this is if the rainfall is above normal or below normal, and if the cereal production is above normal or below normal. And this graph shows you a very close relationship. The years when the rainfall is high, the cereal production is high. Years when the rainfall is low, the production is low. So the country is very dependent on rainfall, just like how India is always dependent on monsoons. They arrive on time, the quantity should be right, then only we have bumper crops. So when you have very close dependence on rainfall, you have a lot of risk exposure at the same time. So what we are seeing is that water storage can mitigate this problem. If we are building irrigation schemes, check dams, rainwater harvesting structures, then you can reduce this close relationship between need for water and availability of water. Here I'm showing you cubic meters of water that is available per capita in various different countries. And you can see that the United States has invested a lot in damming their rivers. And the per capita water available in the United States is the highest. And then you see Australia, Brazil, China, and others. India is quite behind. It's almost as low as Africa. So irrigation has dominated public investment in agriculture in Asia, but because we have such huge population, the per capita number looks somewhat low. And if you look at the world as a whole, irrigated area is about 7% of the total arable land. Whereas if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, irrigated land is only 3.7%. The rest all is rain-fed agriculture. So they are really dependent on rainfall for food security purposes. So one of the take-home messages could be that the more we invest in water storage, the more we can have this close relationship between water demand and water supply. You can bridge that divide between water demand and water supply. One of the things that we have been promoting a lot is the concept of water productivity. And I just want to touch very quickly upon what is water productivity and how it could be a good indicator of agricultural health. Water productivity basically means per unit of water, how much output did you generate? So instead of saying how many kilograms per hectare of wheat or rice did I produce, I'm talking about how many kilograms of wheat or rice did I produce per cubic meter of water. So the denominator is not land, it's water. So whenever water is your limiting factor of production, you try to see how much water productivity are you deriving. Whereas if you have ample water but land is limited, then you look at kilograms per hectare. So that's the yield. In a small country like Singapore, in a small country like Sri Lanka, where the land and arable land is limited, they focus more on how much is my water productivity? What am I doing with my limited water to derive maximum value out of it? So this can also be looked at in terms of economic water productivity. How much money am I making as a farmer for the water resources that are available to me? So it could be rupees, it could be dollars, but how much value are you deriving out of that water resources is what water productivity is about. And as the scale changes, the definition of water productivity differs. If you are a simple farmer and you own a piece of land, so at field scale, for a farmer, water productivity essentially means how much crop did I grow per drop of water. So it's more crop per drop. That's what a farmer is aiming for, because that's what water productivity means to a farmer. But if you are an irrigation scheme engineer, if you are at a system level, if you are at a irrigation scheme level and your job is to release water to different farmers, trying to do different things with that water, people upstream having different irrigation systems versus people downstream, some doing intercropping, relay cropping, agroforestry, all kinds of things. In a system level, it's more about water distribution, equality, efficiency, plugging the leakage, plugging the evaporative losses and cracks and things of those kinds. And at a system level, we're trying to see how you're deriving maximum value, how many rupees is an irrigation scheme generating by different competing interested farmers receiving right amount of water at the right time in the right quantities. At a basin scale, if you're looking at a river basin scale where you have also municipalities, you have industry, you have manufacturing, you have other competing users beyond agriculture, at a basin scale, the definition of water productivity becomes even more complex. Here, we are not just talking about kilograms. We are not just talking about dollars or rupees earned per cubic meter of water, but also how much value are you deriving out of this water? How much job creation are you doing out of this water? Are you creating good jobs? Are people happy manufacturing things? So here it becomes even more complex because you're trying to have competing users fighting for the same water resources. And what we are seeing is that we want to increase the water productivity all the time. Everybody is saying, let's derive more rupees per cubic meter of water, more kilograms per unit of water, more tax collection, more job creation per unit of water. But when do you draw the line and say increasing water productivity is no longer a viable option? Well, increasing water productivity has always come at a cost, because whenever you're trying to improve water productivity, there is management. You are trying to introduce a better irrigation system. You're trying to introduce a better conveyance system. You're trying to introduce a crop or a management practice, say mulching or raised beds or a new kinds of tractors or land levelers. Everything comes at a cost. So water productivity is costly. So increasing water productivity is good, provided the benefits outweigh the cost. So as long as the cost of increasing water productivity is less than the increase in water productivity, only then does it make sense. So if you are in a place where the water productivity is quite high, you cannot be telling the farmer, why don't you invest in further improving the water productivity, because the cost will outweigh the benefits. So it's really important to understand where does that farmer fall compared to his peers, and is there room for further improvement in water productivity, or they have already exhausted all the options and naturally they have a limiting factor, they can't go above this level. So we care for all this debate that I have been talking about in my few slides that I have presented, because the population is on the rise. By 2050, we will have as many as 9.5 billion people. Plus, we have the livestock, we have the poultry industry, we have the meat-based diets. So the pressure on water resources will continue to rise. And most of the regions in the world, the water resources that are available are already committed. There is no room for additional water available to meet these emerging demands. At the same time, we can't just use all the water only for human activities and for our food production, etc. We also need water for supporting ecosystem services, the fishery industries, the deltas, the forests, the other kinds of ecosystems also need this water in order to maintain the health of the Earth planet. And there is competition for water from industries and cities at the same time. You have car factories, Coca-Cola, you have all kinds of other industries that are coming up that are competing with the farmers for that same amount of water that is increasingly shrinking. So globally, we have to produce more food with less water. And also we have to generate bigger livelihoods with less water or same amount of water. So when I say bigger livelihoods, it's meaning you're trying to put more money into the people's pockets. We were talking about doubling farmers' income. We were talking about making India a fourth or a third largest economy and having $4, $5, $6 trillion worth of economy. To earn that kind of livelihood with limited water resources is a huge challenge. And that's where we are heading. And I just want to switch gears soon to talk about potential solutions which are on the horizon. But the farmer is increasingly competing with the cities. I just want to give you a very quick example that if you have 1,000 tons of water and you are say, IAS officer, you are a MLA or a MP or a minister of water resources, and you have to make a decision, do I want to use this water to give it to the farmer who wants to produce milk to supply to the cities? Or do I want to give it to a steel manufacturing factory that is asking for the same water? If you give 1,000 tons of water to a farmer and he produces about 1 ton of milk, which he sells and he earns about $550. Whereas if you were to give that same 1,000 tons of water to the steel factory, they will produce about 1 ton of steel, which sells for almost $14,000. That is almost 25 times more profit compared to when the water is used for milk production. So farmer has very limited opportunity to compete with other businesses, and they're increasingly losing because the steel factory will create jobs, pay taxes, all kinds of secondary benefits that come with giving water to these businesses compared to giving it to agriculture. Now, where to find this water? Now, if you were to look around, we have three possible solutions, and that's what late engineer HANUMANTHA Rao also touched upon, is the concept of the four water kinds. So one is to look at irrigated agriculture, the blue water resources, the water that is available to us in the forms of rivers and aquifers. There's one potential way of producing more food is expanding the irrigated areas. So take more water out of rivers, take more water out of aquifers, and use it for irrigated agriculture. So that's the blue water resources. The other option would be to expand the rain-fed area, cut down the natural areas, cut down all the forest and convert them into agricultural land. This is what is called the green water, the rainwater, the water that is available to us as soil moisture, and we could use that by converting natural areas into arable land. But both these options have their drawbacks. You are taking more water from nature and other businesses, and you are also taking more land away from other users. Whereas the third option, which is a compromise, which doesn't require more land or more water, is to increase the water productivity. How we can produce more with less, more crop per drop. That way, you don't need more drops, you don't need more land, you're just improving the water productivity in a more efficient manner. You're trying to use your water resources, no matter what kind of water resource it is. It could be the green water, it could be the blue water, but you're trying to derive maximum value out of that limited water resource space. This is a map showing you different parts of the world, how dependent they are on blue water resources or the green water resources. And you can see that areas where you have plenty rainfall, you have less population pressure, and they have invested in infrastructure for damming their rivers. You have more dependence on blue water resources, whereas where you have plenty of rainfall or you have not invested in infrastructure, you're dependent on green water resources. So Africa is mostly rain-fed agriculture, whereas South Asia is mostly irrigated agriculture depending on blue water resources. The Middle East, North Africa, the GCC countries, because they have almost zero rainfall, all the agriculture that happens is using groundwater, desalinated water, atmospherically harvested water. So it's all blue water resources. But the size of these sectors that you see, these circles that you see, tells you the total quantity of water that is used for agriculture in these different parts of the world. Now, I just want to touch upon the concept of blue water resources, green water resources, and some potential solutions. So if you were to do field level conservation of water, yep, so that is like bunding of your land, you are harvesting that water, letting it be stagnant, you're trying to capture the residual soil moisture. That is a purely rain-fed agriculture solution. Supplemental irrigation is partially rain-fed, partially irrigated. So it's partially blue water, partially green water solution. Whereas groundwater irrigation, which is taking water from the aquifer, is mostly a blue water solution. So these are some of the potential solutions that we have been promoting as irrigation engineers, and we can look at them whether they fall under the blue water category or the green water category, which is very similar to the concept of the four waters. Now, talking about a place closer to you, the Krishna River Basin. This is a graph showing you different farmers in the Krishna River Basin use the river water for producing various different commodities. There are farmers that are producing rice, farmers that are producing sugar canes, different kinds of grains, spices, fruits, vegetables, even animal products such as meat or poultry or eggs and fish and other things. And when they produce this and they try to sell this, and I try to put this in the form of rupees per meter cube of water used to produce these things. And what you see here is that for the same amount of water, a farmer can earn a lot more money if he tries to produce spices, if he tries to produce fruits and vegetables, rather than trying to grow grains. So if a farmer is growing, say, wheat or corn or ragi or other kinds of oil seeds and pulses, the profit margins, the selling price is so low that it just doesn't make economic water productive sense to be continuing to produce those commodities. At the same time, if you were to compare all these agricultural commodities with the industrial water productivity in the Krishna River Basin, the same water earns you 328 rupees per cubic meter of water, which is just off the chart. You can't even plot it against these commodities. So agriculture is lagging far, far behind the industrial water productivity, and it is so difficult to divert increasingly more water for agriculture into irrigation schemes compared to urban and industrial water demands. So this is what China is doing increasingly. which is a smart way forward, and we can derive some inspiration from there, is that if you look at this graph, the area under wheat production, maize production, rice production has remained more or less flat line. What they are doing is increasingly telling their farmers to move towards higher value crops like fruits and vegetables, because you can derive more value per unit of water when you're trying to grow those commodities. So this is a revolution that is happening since a very long time in China, where they're not trying to expand the agricultural area under cereal production and increasingly trying to move farmers towards growing more fruits and vegetables. Now, I want to touch upon some bright spots. What's on the horizon? Where are the promising opportunities lying for us going forward when you're talking about Viksit Bharat and 2047, and where could be the next revolution in agriculture? So one of the bright spots, one of the things that have happened outside of the agriculture sector is the digitalization, the digital readiness. Even the poorest farmer, even in the most remote areas of India, you can find 4G, 5G network, and people are using smartphones, which has helped us to give very demand-driven, very tailored advisories to every farmer on what is the weather forecast, how should he manage his land, what is the price of his commodity, what are his peers doing, watch some YouTube videos, ask Chat GPT some questions, take a picture, put it into AI software and ask what kind of disease is my plant facing. So that kind of a new revolution happening is probably the next frontier that could be helping us transform Indian agriculture. So according to McKinsey, there have been two revolutions in the field of agriculture till date. The first revolution happened in the early 1900s, 1900, 1930, when mechanization was introduced, farm tractors, farm implements were introduced. And because of that, a farmer was able to produce food to feed about 26 people. One farmer, 26 people was the ratio. Then came the second revolution, which was mostly the green revolution, where you had high yielding varieties, you had irrigation scheme investment, you had fertilizer plants put together. And because of the green revolution, the same farmer, because of the efficiency gains, was able to produce enough food to feed about 156 people. So a ratio went from 1:26 to 1:156. And now the projection is that the next frontier could be precision agriculture, digitalization of agriculture. And because of the efficiency gain from the same acreage of land, the farmer should be able to produce enough food to feed about 265 people. So we are really hoping that this digitalization and precision farming doesn't remain in the vast lands of the West only. When we talk about precision agriculture, we are talking about drones and large land holdings and big planes spraying pesticides. But we can bring the principles of precision agriculture into the hands of the smallholder farmers. And India and China and Brazil are doing a wonderful job of trying to democratize this technology, trying to bring it in the hands of the poorest of the poor by investing in low-cost IoT devices. There are so many startups coming in India that are entering the field of agriculture. Youth is so interested in developing smartphone application, SaaS-based model. You have this Fussel, Yuctex. There are so many newcomers in the market that are making an impression by bringing the benefits of precision agriculture, digitalization of agriculture into the hands of the smallholder farmers. What we at ICARDA are trying to do is also, just like a doctor carries a stethoscope and can look at a patient and say, you have high pulse rate, you have fever, you have high blood pressure. We are introducing some handheld low-cost devices for the farmers or for the extension agent for an on-the-spot diagnostic what's wrong with their crop. So things like thermal cameras, things like green seekers, NPK testing kits, etc. we are trying to introduce, which are very low-cost handheld devices, which can tell you if the plant is water stressed, nutrient stressed, it's facing some kind of a pest and disease problems. And we are trying to empower the farmer to make on-the-spot decision what's wrong with his crop. These are screenshots of an app we have developed for Madhya Pradesh state government called Geo Agro Krishi. And this is a farmer which gives each farmer on the spot, real time information about 14 days of weather forecast, which part of his land parcel is water stressed, where is waterlogging happening, what kind of yield can he expect. So, yield gap, yield forecasting, pest and disease outbreak. We can look at weather analytics and tell a farmer with a lot of confidence that there is a high probability of a pest outbreak or a disease outbreak, and we are trying to provide these analytics in the hands of the farmer so that he can make informed decision when to spray pesticides, when to till his land, when to plant his crop, when to apply irrigation or fertilizer. And we have seen that we have significantly optimized the inputs and significantly increased the farmer's net income by doing that. So we have introduced things like smart irrigation. So we are having weather-based analytics. We try to calculate evapotranspiration losses on a daily time step. We solve the soil water balance, and we advise the farmer how much is the stress and how much irrigation should he be applying. Smart fertilization, smart detection by motion activated cameras to take picture of insects, identify the insect, count the population of the insect, and send out a simple advisory to a farmer to tell, we have seen a locust outbreak, you may want to be watchful, you may want to spray some pesticides and take preventive actions and things of those kinds. So we are introducing these advisories in the local language, in actionable, simple to understand, not a lot of technical jargon, not a lot of numbers, simple actionable statements to help the farmer make informed decisions. Also, we are trying to reduce the environmental footprint of agriculture. Agriculture is very intensive in terms of pesticides, fertilizers, energy, and we are trying to embrace green solutions. So things like agrovoltaics, things like solar powered desalination, solar powered irrigation system, solar powered greenhouses using root zone cooling and things of those kinds. But I'm trying to pick up pace a little. I think I'm a little behind the schedule. So we are trying to introduce green transition so that the environmental footprint of agriculture itself starts coming down. The greenhouse gases produced by agriculture can be reduced. The screen is stuck again. One moment, please. One more thing that we have discovered globally is that although the water scarcity is on the rise, we have very limited information on actual water lost by agriculture. You don't have gold standard measured evapotranspiration data. Everybody is using FAO 56, Penman-Monteith equation, Hargreaves equation, remote sensing products such as Vapor and Seabal and others. Nobody knows which equation, which remote sensing product is right for their crop, for their geography. So one of the things that ICARDA has been doing in partnership with FAO is maintaining a network of eddy covariance flux towers. So at every 30-minute interval for different countries around the world, we share actual measured evapotranspiration losses happening in different controlled conditions. And by giving this kind of information, we have tried to make it available to anybody as an international public good, and people can calculate their own crop coefficient, the KC values. People can do their own crop modeling more precisely. People can compare different remote sensing products to see which remote sensing imagery, which algorithm is best suited for their geography. People are doing water accounting, making smartphone application based on this data that we are making it available to anybody who wishes to use this to derive some value and create some information and knowledge out of it. Another thing that we are working on is payment for ecosystem services. How you can incentivize the farmer to save water so that water is available for non-agricultural users. Take the example of, say, Hyundai or Honda company or Coca-Cola wants to come to Telangana state and say, we want more water available to us. They go talk to the farmers, and farmers are told, if you adopt water saving technologies, the water that you will save will be available to us to produce more cars, or maybe available to us to produce more Coca-Cola. And that's why we are willing to share some of that burden of adoption of water saving technology by sharing our profits with you. So in that way, there's a payment for ecosystem services. You are incentivizing somebody who is using too much of ecosystem services by having someone who's benefiting from those ecosystem services bear the cost of adoption. So Coca-Cola can give money to a farmer to adopt drip irrigation because that will save it water that Coca-Cola can use for maximizing its profit. So we are trying to embed hydrologic modeling with economic modeling by trying to and creating these scenarios, these options, and say, if I were to spend $100 million in a river basin, and I would want to do it by changing land use, changing irrigation, changing choice of crop, how much water can I save, and who will spend this $100 million, because that's the person who will be benefiting from this water that will become available. So economic incentivizing by payment for ecosystem services, another game-changing solution. Another thing that we are trying to tell the farmers is that instead of growing wheat after wheat or rice after rice, why don't you try to diversify your cropping system such that they are highly profitable for you at the same time? So if you can have a cereal with a food legume or a forage legume, or if you can grow intercrop some cash crops. So if you see at the bottom right, I have things like chickpea, I have things like beans, sesame, quinoa, onions, all growing alongside wheat and lentils. So take the example of a Moroccan farmer. If the farmer just grows wheat after wheat after wheat, year after year, he earns only $800 a hectare per year. If he tries to grow lentils, he hardly earns $600 a hectare. But if he starts doing intercropping, so lentils with onions, lentils with quinoa, lentils with chickpea, and you have rows of these two crops growing at the same time, just using residual soil moisture, short duration, very drought tolerant varieties, you can increase your income without need for additional land, without need for additional water, from $600, $700, $800 to as much as $10,000, $11,000 by diversifying these production systems. So that's another thing that we are promoting amongst the farmer, is these diversification of cropping system such that they're good for the environment and good for the farmers' top line as well as the bottom line. So this is my key take-home message. I want to conclude my lecture here. And one of the things that I would like to touch upon is that food will continue to increasingly become a national security issue. We have seen during the Ukraine-Russia war, we have seen during COVID crisis, we have seen many times that increasingly, if a country is food secure, it is nationally secure as well. Whereas if it's dependent on imports, it's vulnerable to the externalities. Also, the days of horizontal expansion, taking more water away from the rivers, taking more land away from nature, all that horizontal expansion in terms of blue water, green water resources is over. Only solution remaining amongst us is to improve the water productivity. And this is a global message, but also especially for India's context. If you look at the water productivity of China, if you look at other bigger countries, India has room for improvement, a significant room for improvement in adoption of water saving technologies, and the way we do agriculture, the commodities that we produce, plug the water delivery losses, at the same time food loss and waste also. Also, we need to focus on water demand and supply gaps. How can we invest in infrastructure for rainwater harvesting, for river basin scheme, watershed management, such that we can bridge the water demand supply gap. Also, we need to generate greater livelihoods with same or less amount of water. At the same time, we are trying to reduce the environmental footprint of agriculture. How can we have this green transition, adoption of green energy solutions, biochar, composting, and other means of doing agriculture without having a huge greenhouse gas impact? And finally, there is youth, there is digitalization, there is low cost, open source, IoT devices, 3D printed stuff, nanotechnologies. There is so much of revolution happening around the world, which hasn't trickled down into the field of agriculture yet. So work on low cost, open source, digitalization of agriculture will help us make informed decision and will empower the farmers to de-risk their agriculture, I feel. I just want to acknowledge some of the partners and donors that have been supporting my work that I just presented here. And with that, I'll stop talking. And at the bottom of the screen is the email address. If you want to reach me and continue this conversation or some Q&A, I'll be very happy to seek some feedback from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. An excellent presentation and highly knowledgeable. You covered everything, and you have not. So you have discussed a lot of things about virtual water, and also the value of water of every 1,000 tons of this water. How developed countries are going for steel manufacture because they are getting more dividends. And you rightly told that Telangana is happy of exporting rice to Sri Lanka, but at what cost it is there? So 1 kg of rice they are spending about 3,000 liters, sir. So the excellent thing. And another important thing is different revolutions also, that mechanical revolution, where one farmer used to support only about 26 people they used to feed. In grave revolution, that about 156, and in smart revolution, it can feed about 265, sir. And you have enlightened that by 2050, the world population will become 9.5 billion, sir. So always must think about the per capita water, but not the quantity, overall quantity. That is very, very important. Even India also, the forecast is that by 2050, our population may go up to 160 crores, that is 1.6 billion crores, and the per capita will come down. And water productivity is more important. That water productivity is also not the extension of area, but more output. That is very important for every cubic meter. How much the produce you are getting it, that is very important. You have enlightened that ultimately the solution is only going for a climate smart precision farming. That is very, very important. So that is also slowly now we are entering into that one. So using of smart phone agriculture is very, very important, sir. So excellent. And in this also you told about smart irrigation, smart fertilization, smart sensing, all the things are there. I think things will, so definitely that is the way out. There is no other go. We have to go in for that one, sir. Very excellent. I am very happy with me. The daughter of T. HANUMANTHA is here. In our presentation also, you told that pour water concept is brought a lot of revolution in productivity. So ultimate answer. So we are very much benefited by your talk. And this is one of the best endowment talk we have. The endowment in the last 7 endowment talks are there. The 8th one is one of the best endowment talks, sir. Thank you so much. So nice of you. We thank you on behalf of all of you thing. And daughter of HANUMANTHA is also there. She wants to say hello.
Namaste, good evening. On behalf of our family, I thank Dr. Vinay Nanga in delivering Father's 8th endowment lecture today. The subject, Water Smart Green Revolution, was close to his heart. Father was very much involved in water conservation and water resources. Thank you so much, Dr. Vinay, for giving in-depth analysis of water, the problems we face, and also the solutions you have mentioned. Thank you for the extensive speech. I thank the Chairman, Institution of Engineers, Dr. Venkat Subbai Garu, Chairperson, Dr. I. Satyanarayan Garu, who has introduced Father very in detail and very affectionately. I thank you. Srimani Ramesh Garu, Secretary and Coordinator, Dr. Sitaram Garu for organizing this event. Our special thanks to Dr. Sri Muhammad Hussain Garu for coordinating with Dr. Nanda and putting in a lot of time and effort to see the program flow smoothly. Every year, he presents Dr. Stephen Pope's inspirational book to the gold medalists. It is a very inspiring and motivating gesture. Thank you. And I would like to congratulate all the gold medalists and wish them all their best in their future endeavors. And today, one of the gold medalists is here. Wish you all the luck. I thank our friends and family who are with us today, who have logged in today for this program and taken time off to be with us. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you, madam. Now I hand over mic to Honorable Secretary Dr. Sitaram to conclude the session.
Sir, thank you very much, sir.
Actually, we have 4 medals that have to be distributed today, sir. Only one person has come. We have four different universities.
But as such, to promise to the daughter of Hanumantha Rao Garu, we'll speed post it to the particular person, sir. It will be sent. They'll come down to Hyderabad to pick it up. It's fine. Otherwise, we'll. Then, it's one of the statistical driven effort. Many other people led to this, doing more of nature. Sir. Thank you very much. We also thank Chair person for today, Ayes and Rajkar, for having taken the role of responsibility of doing such an event. The absence of Dr. Chief Minister. Also have Ramesh Garu, along with Chairman and Chairperson for having made this security plan success. We also have the presence of the Dr. Shashi Kula Garu and Ramanji Garu for having come. Part of the event success.
Bhaskar Rao Garu is our senior.
Participated on online. We thank one and all for having part of this event, making the event grand success. With this, we wind up, sir. We appreciate everyone to stand up for national anthem, please. Thank you.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, sir.
Bhaskar Rao Garu, thank you so much.
Madam. సమాజంలో నైస్ సార్
మేడం ఇప్పుడు వస్తున్నారు సార్ మీరు ఒకటి వస్తున్నారు ఇప్పుడు టైం వస్తుంది